I would like to welcome to the show Mr. Cory from Resinate Cannabis. How you doing today, brother?
I am doing fantastic. It's about time that we got this situated. This has been
A
a
long
work
time
in
coming.
progress for a little while.
Yes, sir.
Just a
Yes,
little
sir.
while.
You're a busy man, so it's hard to get you in one spot to settle down. Definitely. Definitely a busy man.
I I am, yeah, it definitely I can't even hide it. And it's not even like a bragging thing at this point. It's just like I am busy and I
Yeah,
acknowledge it. And yeah, I make time wherever I can. As y'all can
absolutely.
see, we're faded out, but I'm like sitting in my car in the middle of Vancouver
That's
trying to get
awesome.
this podcast done with you,
I
so
appreciate
it
it,
is
man.
what it
I appreciate it.
is.
So let's go ahead and get into the first thing. How did Cory get into the cannabis industry, and what was your first experience with cannabis itself?
So my first experience with cannabis itself was actually smoking with my cousin Jared. Rest in peace. It's actually 5 years this year to the day that he unfortunately passed away. Really young cat. He's only like a year and a half younger than me. I'm 37, so yeah, way too early for sure. And yeah, I remember I smoked at the we were like on the side, like hiding out by this little elementary school, and we had this like shitty metal pipe, and it was yeah, my cousin Jared and like a friend of the family named Kyle. And they're like, don't be surprised if you don't get high. And so like I didn't know if they were just like trying to keep all the weed for themselves, like I don't
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
the fuck they're talking about,
yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? But yeah, no, I took a couple of hits from the pipe and I was like, whatever. Like I feel like a little bit, I think. I don't know. Not really, as like perspective puts it now, but that was like my very first experience like ever, yeah, like smoking cannabis.
Okay.
Fuck yeah, I don't even know how young I was. A young kid though, man. I was like probably like 14 or 15 was the first time I tried. Yeah, somewhere
Okay.
in there.
So how did that first experience lead to you even wanting a career in cannabis, or what led you in that pathway?
I mean, I didn't like consciously recognize it, but like my cousin's death for sure like made me make the transition from the black market into the legal market up here in Canada. The timing of his passing away when it was legalized was like very a symbiotic set of events. So I remember that's like that had a huge impact on me for sure. I would not be where I am today, which is one of the largest cannabis facilities in the world, especially under glass. So, yeah, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be there in that point in time. But that first like smoking session, it didn't really like click in that sort of way where I was like, okay, like, sorry, I need to like smoke every day or like I'm gonna go do it on the weekends or no, like didn't even really smoke that much at all. It was I don't really remember any time between like that
Mm-hmm.
certain event and
Mm-hmm.
then when I was like 16 and I moved to another town and I started like I was sneaking out at night, I was 16 years old and like the
Mm-hmm.
crew I ran into was smoking weed all the time. So I was like, well, fuck yeah, I'll hit that shit. Like, fuck it. It didn't kill me the first fucking time I did it. So not going to kill me now. Um, and even then, like, I did it a few times in high school, but I was an athlete. So I was man, I was fucking terrified of the NCAA and their crazy ass testing regime and shit.
Oh
This is
yeah, that
like in
makes
the
sense. That makes sense.
it's like it's like the early 2000s, man. This is way before like NIL and the good days that they have now. You know what I mean? Like it was way different back then. They owned you. They fucking owned you.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to pop hot. Like Florida, Washington State, Oklahoma. Like a few people were looking at me for a few different things. So I didn't want to get that twisted.
Okay.
But
But how did you get into
I had a
cultivation? Who like did you have mentors, or was it just something that you tried out?
Yeah, like I found it medically first, like when I was like trying to keep away from it, I actually got hurt when I was playing football. And
Okay.
so I turned, obviously they gave me like all the prescription pills and stuff, but they ended up like reacting and giving me some issues. And so I ended up steering away from that stuff. And the only thing I knew what to do to get out of pain was smoke weed.
Mm.
I had like fucking nothing else, man. Like I wasn't gonna, they were giving me like Demerol and morphine at once up here. Like it was a hardcore regime. Like, I herniated 2 discs in my back and I dislocated my left hip,
Sheesh.
and it was a serious injury. Um, so it was medicine to me. And then, I through a series of, kind of crazy events, I was kind of into some things. So I obviously understood what weed was, and, moving it by the pound instead of just buying it by like the gram. And so that was like a totally different experience. But like I moved to California in the early 2000s, and that like really changed my entire trajectory of everything related to cannabis. Like, my mother thinks that cannabis and hash are two different things. Like cannabis is that shit stuff, but like hash, that's the good stuff. You know what I mean? So like the foundation of my like relationship with cannabis was like, flawed to say the least, or hilarious,
Hmm.
depending on whether you breed it. And so when I went to California, I remember walking in a dispensary and there was like like 80 or 90 different strains. Like not even kidding. Like definitely not 70. There was like 80 or 90. And I just kind of speaking with the lady that was the bud tender there, and I was just going like, what do I even do in here? And she was like, honey, I can tell you about half of these things, but like you got to start learning for yourself.
Right, right.
And I was like, okay. So I started like keeping journals and shit of like all the stuff that I was smoking and what it was doing for my back, and like, all
Let's
sorts of crazy ass shit. Yeah,
let's
that's why like, yeah, I believe in those like weed diaries for sure. Like,
same here.
you
Now,
know,
that leads me to my next question.
yeah.
So, what are some of the strains that you came across from like the beginning and on to like when you started having like your pain from your injuries? Like, what are some of
Man,
your
there's like
favorite strains that you remember that are staying in your memory?
so like I'll hold on that one because we'll get to that one. But
Oh,
like
okay.
as far as like getting the cultivation is concerned, is through that experience, like through the dispensary. Because of that and like getting me informed and stuff, I actually ended up volunteering at another dispensary.
Okay.
And these two guys came up to me and were like, hey, like you're clearly excited about this thing. Like, do you want to kind of learn more? And
That's
obviously,
awesome.
yes. You know me fairly well at this point. We've been
Yeah.
chatting for like 3 years at this
Yeah.
point. Like,
Yeah.
I want to learn stuff and like just
Absolutely.
get better at everything that I do. And so yeah, I was like, of course. So they helped me get set up under LA County rules. We could have a certain amount of plants, and they helped set me up. And yeah, that
Like
was like
caregiver.
yes, sir. Like, yeah, in
Okay.
Los Angeles. So we directly gave to we were compassionate caregivers. We sold directly to our dispensaries, back in the good old days. Prop 215. Whoop whoop. Yeah, it was a totally different thing. And those two guys for sure, like they brought me up into Central California, into Mendocino, and that like gave me connections to like learn at the outdoor scale, because that's a whole different thing than just having like 12 to 16 plants in the
Right.
indoor.
Right. Right.
Now you're at like 40 acres, like a fuck ton of plants, and just like really eye-opening experiences. So that's what led me to cultivation, was like those guys and a bunch of my friends like really having that passion, showing me that you can make like double the money in LA than you could in Canada at that time for cultivating. And I thought that was just like mind blowing. If you get like different genetics and just do things differently, the value of your product is like
Yeah.
flies,
Absolutely.
which may seem like a simple lesson now, but like back then, I had no, like everyone was talking about BC bud all the time. It was BC and
British
California.
Columbia. Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
the two.
Oh, British
Yeah.
Columbia was
So
pretty tough with the bud back then.
was really good, man. Like we were trade, like yeah, I guess like the statute of limitations is gone, but like we used to trade like gram for gram, like
I didn't
fucking
know that.
green for blow, man. Like it wasn't even a question. Like the value was unbelievable for our stuff.
Wow.
So having that experience and then going down and making, like 4 to 6K a pound, I was just like, okay, well then
Let's get
who needs
into
to
it.
trade for who needs to trade anymore? I don't need to trade. I'll just like
Right.
continue to master what I'm doing. I'm gonna get there anyway. So that's what led me to cultivation. Um, Also had that love for retail, and when I moved back to Canada, like man, Vancouver had so many dispensaries. It was wild. We were flying off the chain. So I got into retail a little bit, and that like understood, what people want. And I think that's like the biggest lesson that you can have as someone, man. You can breed fucking Fred's Super OG THC Extreme, and no one's gonna fucking buy it if that isn't like what's going on in the market, and nobody's like wanting that right now.
Okay, so what
Like
okay.
me,
What do you think it is? Even if okay, because I'm attracted to the name of a strain, right? Do you think it's all hype that people are attracted to, or do you think that people just consistently ignore like the possibilities of what they could be liking? Like for instance, if they somebody chose a cookies versus a something called stoned owl, do you think it's just because it's cookies, or what do you think is the problem?
yeah, like being attracted to names is just like the worst thing that you can do,
That's
basically.
lame.
Like it's because like I mean, I just know I am behind the curtain. I've been behind the curtain for, you know, good on a decade. I've been growing for like 19 years for medicine. And like, man, fuck man. If it walks like a dog and barks like a dog, it must be a dog, right?
I don't understand, but
So
I
like,
don't get it though.
but like, well, no. I mean, you will get it for sure. Like, you live in America, bro. It's capitalism. You want to make money. You need to make money.
Yeah, okay, but
So
if
like,
you have
if you got that hot shit on the corner, then everyone's gonna fucking come see you. You
yeah,
know
but how
that's
do
the
you
truth.
but you'll be missing so many strains not trying this stuff out just because of a name though.
Doesn't even matter though, man. You're in the moment for the money. So that's where the hype train is going to be. It's the same thing as the hype train with the THC. Like if everyone thinks it's about the THC, I mean, like y'all are fooling yourselves for sure. It's not about the THC. You get fucking crazy high off of fucking 16% shit that you do is a so-called like
Agreed.
30, 34%.
Agreed.
Fuck off.
One of my favorite strains is Night Nurse, and it's only like 16% THC, but it had my head knocked off completely.
Yeah, and who the fuck knows what your night nurse is, yo? Like maybe your night nurse is like somebody's Jack Herrera or like
Right.
Sour Diesel or like who knows what that guy decided to make it at that time. And that's like the unfortunate reality like of my business, of our business. Like yes, people, the good ones and like, if I pop a seed and this is through my own garden, and like, if I have the name of it, I'm not changing names. Like, I want to be fucking clear about that. All right, folks. Like, I'm not the one fucking changing the names. I'm the one fucking arguing against doing that shit because it's fucking bullshit and it fucks shit up. Like, people can sit there and hone their craft and fucking grow this one thing, and then all of a sudden some asshole comes along and calls it that thing and then becomes famous for it. Fuck
Mm.
your shit and the fucking horse you rode in on, motherfucker. It pisses me off when people do that shit. So I just want to be clear, like I'm not the one changing the names, but it's the fact of the reality, man. Like it's just a fact of the reality. So
So
I would go so more on like how things like taste, how they like feel, because we're learning more things about the plant. Again, not just about THC, not just about terpenes, folks. There's things phenols or phenols, depending on what region of the country you speak. Everyone's got a twang where we're from, right?
mhm.
So phenols or phenols is another like secondary metabolite in the cannabis plant. Newsflash, base. How do I put this in a real easy way so I don't lose anybody? There's no such terpene as gas. That's not a thing, folks. It's a phenol or a phenol. It's a different secondary metabolite in the plant. So like that, everyone loves the gas. It's not a fucking terpene. So it's that's where people are like, oh yeah, I love those terpenes. It's so gassy. I'm just like, yo, fucking tell me more. Tell me more. So
So how do you feel when somebody
yeah,
says like a banana terp or a candy terp or a berry terp? Do you agree with that also?
sometimes if that's what I smell or that's what I taste, like it's all objective in that sort of way in most cases. Like I definitely there are a lot of profiles that make sense to me. If somebody tells me something smells like ginger, it usually smells like ginger. If someone says blueberry, it does. So I do believe that there's a truth to that in that sort of way. Like it's yeah, there's definitely stuff that smells like what other people say, for sure. 100%. Yeah.
So with all that doctrine and all this knowledge that you have, what made you start Resonate Cannabis, and what was the process like getting that business started? Was it easy for you because you were already connected, or was it just as hard as starting any other business?
So Resonate Cannabis came out of I left the black market so that I could make sure that I sponsored my wife's visa so she could come into the country. So I made sure that I was clean. And so I ended up taking some schooling about product design and learning about user experiences and personas and a little bit of that sort of stuff, which is really interesting for me. But like out of that actually grew Resonate as a brand, because they're like, oh, well, you need to create an app at the end of this stuff. You need to create a brand. And I was like, well, I might just fucking start my own cannabis company. So I might as well start now.
Absolutely.
And that's how Resonate really was born. I wanted the name for a long fucking time. Because everyone, I'm really privileged with all the knowledge that everybody has given me, and I am so like even further privileged to have platforms to speak on like this, like the Wake and Bake podcast, and
I appreciate it, man.
Resonate Radio, and everybody else that I've had the absolute pleasure of being with. I've been able to forward information, that has been given upon me, and that's like really the true key, like for it all. And that's like the stuff that I appreciate the most. And a lot of people kept on saying, oh, like Cory, I resonate with what you're saying. Like if
Oh,
I had a
that's cool.
fucking nickel for the
Every time
amount of
somebody
fucking
said
time,
that, that is funny.
holy
That is,
fuck.
it was
So
destined,
I
man.
just like yeah, like it really was. And yeah, my logo, like it kind of looks like a purple weed plant if y'all look closely at that shit. And it's because like, again, I told you I was going to talk about it, but like, one of the first medical cultivars or strains, however you decide, chemovar, whatever the fuck
Hmm,
you
hmm.
all decide to call it today. Granddaddy Purple is the first
Okay.
one that really, gave me that sedative effect. And yeah, so that's why I got the purple. I love purple buds. I know it's become like the fucking rappers go to at this point in time. So, but like I loved purple before it was a fucking thing, boys and girls. Like, calm your shit. Early 2000s, anybody? Like, there's probably some people listening to this show that were born after that. You know what
Oh,
I
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
mean?
So how would you compare? So since you've been in the American and the Canadian market, how would you compare the markets? Which market do you
Oh,
feel like is?
sorry.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
yo.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
man.
so that's a big question. No, it's all good. But it's like starting the company, I have to say, uh, just because it's legal weed here in Canada doesn't mean that it was easy to get my company going.
Oh no, I don't believe that at
Okay.
all. Yeah.
So, like, even though we're legal here in Canada, it's still almost impossible to get a bank account. Almost impossible. I walked into my bank that I've been doing business for with like 12 years, and it says Resonate Cannabis Incorporated. That is my name. I made a conscious decision with my investors to leave cannabis in my name. I could just be Resonate Incorporated. I didn't do that. I went Resonate Cannabis. And man, that bank teller was like, hell no. She's like, I see that cannabis is in your business name, and we don't do that here. And I was like,
Wait a minute. Are the
motherfucker,
banks are the
what are you
banks
talking about?
the banks themselves are allowed to turn you down regardless of it being legal? Like they can still. Are you kidding me?
Regardless of the fact that I have a business number, I have a tax ID from the Canada Revenue Agency, which is the equivalent of the Internal Revenue Service that you guys have down there. Even though, and those are the people that are governing the banks even further, the banks can still not take my money. I'm completely legit with the Canada Revenue Agency. I pay my taxes. I have filed all my yearly reports as a corporation should federally here in the country of Canada. And I have to make sure that my like level of income is at a certain amount so that I can have a certain bank account to make sure. I don't want to give it all away. Might be a loophole.
Yeah.
But like, that's like I got to keep my income at a certain level so that it's not flagged so that I can actually like continue to do business. It's
That's
like kind of
amazing.
wild.
That's amazing that regardless of all these hardships that they give the cannabis industry, now you have to deal with prejudice. And that's amazing. That is amazing.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, it's not amazing in a sense. Like the cannabis industry has been under like incredible shame and false pretenses for like fucking so many decades. And like this is, again, the rant. There's like certain people back in the day in like the 20s and 30s that were like responsible for, reefer madness and shit, and putting out all of that like complete like bullshit propaganda against cannabis. Like whether you think you're racist or not, or whether all of that bullshit, there are these negative biases that were put in place these propaganda pieces towards cannabis since at least the 1920s. And that gentleman who was doing that also was in consultation with the Japanese government and the German government and the Argentinians. So like he touched almost every single continent. And so, how it's honestly, unfortunately, not that surprising when you actually like look at the roots of what happened and where like all of this fucking bullshit propaganda started, which again, targeted against black people
Yeah,
in the 30s, which is fucking wild to me. Like the amount of fucking baggage from that whole thing just is
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
endless for so many different things.
yeah.
Anyway, that's probably a rant for a different
No, no,
podcast.
no. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I,
This for this
I
cup
feel
podcast,
passionately
but
about
this
it. You
one.
know what I mean? Holy fuck. So yeah, there's just it's just the unfortunate situation. And that's what we're in now, is where the government here in Canada was like, we don't even have sorry we don't even have any like social equity programs in cannabis in the country of Canada. Like we legalized this thing federally. We didn't fucking pardon our convicts. We didn't fucking even give any opportunity to anybody of fucking color, like BIPOC. Like what the fuck does that mean in the cannabis industry here in
Wow.
Canada? Like there's no such fucking thing. Man, it's crazy the industry that I'm in. Like, I don't understand. Like, why did we do that? It was just like a rebranding of like the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act that we already had in place here. It made things like way worse for cannabis. And so,
Wow.
yeah, the legalization thing and trying to set up your business and try and run it, like, fuck me, man. If I was a big business and I ran a huge retail shop, or if I was a like exclusively large scale cultivator, like if I actually had my own property for my own shop in that way,
Hmm.
then I could have a bank account. But it would cost me like $20,000 a year for a fee. Like, I don't know what you
It's
pay for your
ridiculous.
monthly fee, your bank account, but like 20 rat, what?
Well, that's
20,
just the extra tax.
20?
Well, we don't even have
It's,
banking for
it's
cannabis out
crazy.
here at all, so I don't even know what the fee would be.
Well, there are some options. Like I know in the Pacific Northwest, since they have that kind of chain of legalization that's happened there, there are some
Mhm.
spots. I can't remember I wish I could shout out the companies and give them the proper respect that they're due. Maybe I can do some research afterwards and can throw them up in the description of the podcast afterwards. But I know that there are some options where you can like get your money away. So yeah, federally, of course, it's impossible, unfortunately, in the United States. But yeah, just because it's federally legal doesn't mean like the banks are owned by international entities and it's still illegal like internationally. The UN still recognizes this as like the devil's lettuce, y'all. So
That's a
yeah,
shame.
it
So how do you
it
feel
just
about
like
so since it's now legal in Thailand because you're just talking about the UN looking at cannabis as the devil's lettuce. How far do you feel like it's going to spread with it hitting Asia? Do you feel like it's going to get to the United Arab Emirates? How far across the world do you think it's going to get, or do you think it's going to keep on taking its slow time progressing?
man, like I'd love to say I'm like the, fucking like older reference, but I'd love to say I'm like the fucking Oracle on the Matrix or some shit. But like there's no way I can predict that, to be honest with you. Like I know a lot of people will probably jump up and be like, "Oh, yo, like Thailand will fuck." Nah, like I'm not gonna be about that. And why I'm not gonna be about that is because like my uncle did like 9 years of hard time in the 80s for growing weed in his basement in Canada, folks. So like his mind is fucking blown. They're like, I'm getting money to like grow at like facilities and consult
I
around
bet.
the world and
I
like
bet.
pocket money from cannabis, you know? And that was just like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, which like relatively isn't a long time. And we never thought that it would be like here. We never thought Canada would be legalized all of a sudden and that would roll forward. I mean, Thailand medically, like my uncle actually lives in Thailand. That's where he went because Canada
Oh,
kept treating
okay.
him like shit as a fucking criminal.
Wow.
So like even him, he's been living in Thailand and he didn't even think that was going to happen out there for a long time. So it's just like really, you know, I don't it is what it is, but cannabis is a super political thing. You can't stay away from it. It's just part of the thing. And so it's going to depend on like what the political environment is and if anybody decides to like capitalize on that. Because that's really what happened here in Canada is that our like what you guys would have in the United States is Democrats, we call the
Hmm.
liberals up here, the
Hmm.
Liberal Party campaigned on the fact that they were going to nationally, federalize the legalization of cannabis, and that was a huge push for them. They got all the young people on the vote and got them in, and then everyone was like, okay, like you better fucking deliver. And so that's how cannabis was legalized here. The money was tough to ignore. We were making like 50, $60,000 a night in the gray market cannabis dispensaries here in Canada. So how can you ignore that stream of revenue? The taxes on there are wild.
So what type of
So
operation do you run right now, and why are you excited to still do this? Like, because you have a lot of insight on the cannabis industry and how, and a lot of you have a lot of negative insight on what's going on with the cannabis industry. So like, what keeps you inspired to keep going? Like, what type of operation you running right now that fits your mood for it?
so I respect the comment that I have like a lot of negative views on the cannabis industry. I think it can definitely be perceived that way. For me, I have a very like sobering and refreshing view of the cannabis industry because I've seen it legalized and I've seen the positives and the negatives of legalization everywhere, right? So like some more of the positives of legalization is like cannabis is legal.
Hmm.
Like you can walk into a brick and mortar store, you can order cannabis online legally. Always have a soft spot for the gray market. We've been able to order cannabis online in Canada for fucking 2 decades, two and a half
Okay.
decades. So, that inside itself isn't really a novelty per se, but people don't have to worry too much anymore about stuff being seized. They're going to get their shipments pretty come and go as they please. So, like having that access for people, I think is a super important thing because it should lead to what we talked about earlier with Mr. Harry Anslinger is that destigmatization of cannabis and having like some positive stereotypes with things. And I hear it now. When I'm listening to my satellite radio on the way to work in the morning, I'm hearing mainstream shows that are talking about the National Football League are talking about like Curaleaf and
Oh,
like, okay, Curaleaf is fucking swag central, like boof weed, boys and girls, right? Like
I
this is
didn't know.
not.
So Curaleaf is in Canada also. I thought.
No, it's not in Canada. That's an American. That was an
Yeah,
American show I'm listening
that's.
to.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
and
okay.
so for them to make like references about cannabis just like willy nilly like that, and still like inside of a football show is kind of like really
Mind blowing.
cool. Like, yeah, never thought that was gonna happen even like 10 years ago. Honestly, you know, um, and that's like even with me like smoking with NFLers in the off season.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to drop that as a brag or anything, but just like that conscious awareness of knowing that like a lot of pro athletes were doing it.
Right,
I
right.
didn't even think that was going to advance that quickly. So that's really cool to see that like drop into the mainstream and see some of those things happening as far as like the horticultural side of things are concerned. Like, man, there's so much money for research now because of the cannabis industry. So much fucking money. for people to do genetic research. So people who got into plant genetics, now they can get into genetics for cannabis, and they're getting PhD degrees where they never thought that was an option. So there's money going into education system inwards. There's outflows into research where I'm part of one of the largest hop and viroid experiments in the world right now, if not like the only. I've designed a hop and viroid testing program for over 2,000 mothers.
That's crazy.
Again, I'm working in one of the largest spaces in the world. So big programs need to happen here. But we got that because I've partnered with one of the leading universities here in Canada called Simon Fraser University, and Dr. Zamir Punja received $1 million Canadian, about 750 US for you all keeping score at home. But still like a pretty healthy sum of money, to do research and get shit done. So man, there's fuck, I could talk about it for a while. There's a lot of positives that are in there. But
Well, let me ask you this
for
question
me,
then.
yeah,
Yeah, let me ask
for
you this
me,
question.
sorry, real quick.
Okay, go
For
ahead.
yeah, for me, just being like that old school person and being brought up by hippies and being through Mendocino and like a whole bunch of other shit that, we can talk about at a different time. I'm very protective of the industry. And
Hmm.
just because
Oh,
I
I know
went
you
to
are.
go legal, yeah, just because I went to go legal doesn't mean that I'm like this fucking, like there's a lot of weird legal people out there, you know what I mean? So I can understand that perception in a way, the way I speak, but
No,
my
no. So,
industry is
so,
my,
so when
yeah,
I say no, 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 I know, I get what you're saying. So what I'm saying is, when I say negative, is okay across the board. Most cultivators, most people in the cannabis industry who are not corporate share the same opinion. And the reason why I ask that is because I always ask every guest also, what things in the cannabis law do you think they can do to ease the pain for cultivators and business owners? And I ask you the same question. What do you think they can do? Like simple things that you think they can do?
man, that's like part three, you dig? Like, you know, the the first thing is that like my company that I currently work for right now, like, man, we pay like 4 times the amount of money to the government in taxes alone than we actually pay our people at my company.
That's crazy.
It's fucked. It's straight fucked. And it's causing a lot of these companies to go into debt. Some of these companies deserve to fail. Let me say that for the record. I've said this many times in my podcast. I've said this many times in all my live shows that I do. Like, fuck some of these companies for sure. Like, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, yeah, Canopy, fuck you guys. I can't wait for y'all to burn in hell. Like, man, y'all drive me crazy.
Uh,
I have no
oh my
idea like
gosh.
how much longer y'all are gonna keep being alive, but like y'all need to fuck off and die. You're just putting out boof weed. You put out boof employees. Like, go home, Canopy. Go home. So like some
Canopy.
of them, some of them deserve to burn in hell for sure. But like
That's funny.
paying that much more money to the government for taxes versus your own people that are actually bringing it to fruition is something like I'm never going to understand. It doesn't matter how successful this industry is for this like first 5, 6, 7, whoever knows how long this is gonna bullshit gonna last. But like we were just pissing our money away and giving it to the government for no
Yeah.
fucking reason. No reason. So that's been like that right alone right there. If we change that, man, I can like number one, I can get a raise that I deserve. I can fucking give a
Sleep
raise to my
easier.
employees that they fucking deserve. Like everyone's gonna feel better and then some. Then I'm gonna have money for more research and development. I'm gonna have more research to like again put back into my employees so we can go to conferences and learn more and like share our experiences with people. I mean, there's so much value that we can have with that extra top line. It's not all just going into the pocket of our employees directly. It's, indirectly as well through other channels. Like it's a big picture thing. You got to develop people and want them to be around and grow. So pun intended. So I think that's like, that like right off the top is like a huge thing. And then there's like the packaging and the genetic laws and the testing and some of the regulations. Like half of them can just go into the garbage right away. Like didn't even matter. I could open up the book and I could just fucking like blind pull out half the pages, and I'm pretty sure the industry would be okay.
Yeah.
Nobody would die tomorrow. Everyone would still get their fucking pockets greased the way they like. There's just like this needless bullshit that exists as well inside of the system due to some of these regulations that don't make a fucking word of sense to me. So
We understand.
yeah, there's that in a nutshell, bud.
Okay. Well, dang. I don't even know what to ask you. You've covered so much. I couldn't even ask you many questions because I feel like you went into the next question I could have asked, to be honest with you.
I was
But
telling you when we were trying to set this up, you know what I mean? I was like, I
jeez,
probably got a lot to say. Like, it's been a long time and I've seen a lot of fuckery. And we haven't even talked about international stuff yet. We've
we
just been in
haven't.
Canada,
And we
you
haven't
know?
even I wanted to get I wanted to actually talk about like the most fun part, the genetics, like what the genetics you've come across that you love growing, what plants have been stronger than others, like all type of stuff. Hash making, do you make hash? Like all type of stuff.
No, I'm old, man. I'm not even that old. I mean, I got some white in the beard and shit, but like, man, the current company that I've decided to latch onto right now, Pure Sun Farms in Canada. We're one of the number one brands across the nation. You can also find some of our cannabis in the bags called the Fraser Valley Weed Company, Fraser Valley Weed Co., or SOAR, SOAR, depending on what province that you're in. If you're in Australia, you can find us under Altum. In Israel, we're also Pure Sun Farms. I'm not sure what our name is going to be yet in Germany and the UK. More to come. What I was saying, before was that like now when I'm in this industry where I'm at with Pure Sun Farms, I'm in the stage where I wanted to go back to the nursery. I've been in flower for so long and making sure that that stuff was like all good and straight and delivered and like getting pruning techniques. I just like if I wasn't gonna work at the nursery in Pure Sun Farms, man, like I would have probably like taken a break or done something different in the cannabis industry. Maybe taking a break from cultivation because it's like the corporate game is exhausting. But like this nursery game is dope. I can get the plants
That's
ready. We
awesome.
can dictate the pruning strategy in the beginning. Like everything starts right there. Like it's the most important room in the beginning of the entire process. So that is like a next level thing for me, to be honest with you. And I fuck man, I super enjoy it. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's again, it's the largest cannabis nursery in the world. Man, our footprint is 5.9 million square feet.
Wow.
And so we're just like pumping out fucking kilos. Like, and we are the Budweiser of cannabis.
So let me ask you this
And
question. Let me ask you this.
yeah,
What is you have you've been busy is like you're super busy, right? You don't even have time to
yeah.
go to the conferences to learn like I guess what's more what is out there even more. So what is the most fun part about this industry to you? Like just on a positive
Well,
note, what's the most fun part?
going to conferences is still fun for sure in that way. I mean, in all honesty, like I get more questions than what I learn from some of them, and that's kind of where the point I am. And it's just because of how many plant units that we deal with. Like our rooms are massive. We're putting like 12,000 to 14,000 plants in a room. And so I'm overcutting a little bit. So I'm seeing like the morphology changes and the disease spread and the pest pressure and how we have to deal with that is just like on another level.
Wow.
And like the last conference that I went to, the plug and cutting conference in Denver, Colorado last year, hosted by American Horticulture, I went into this course about like hemp, and this guy from Cornell did his PhD on it. He was sharing his paper, his data, and he's like going through things, and he shows his climate graph, and I see his climate graph that he shows on the slide, and it's the same climate system that we use at my current job,
It's amazing.
Priva. And so I'm reading it right away. I like see all the lines instantly, like go into nerd mode, and I see this like crazy drop on two of these lines, and I was like, that's not right. Something happened there. So he just kind of like, and he skips through it too. He's it's the quickest slide. He's like, "Yep, this is just climate data." Like, boop. It was like 10 seconds he had it on the screen. So he goes through the whole thing, and I stop. I say, "Hey, like, question about the slide you tripped over. Like, I use Priva. I saw that data. Like, your temperature and humidity crash, right? He's like, yeah, definitely. He's like, the power went out. My AC and the lights went out for like half a day. And I
Wow.
was like, okay, so like we're talking about a routing paper here. You think that like maybe that interruption didn't affect your results at all? And so it like like it totally led to this like crazy in-depth conversation that we ended up having lunch together because
That's
he was
awesome.
like, oh, like you see crazy shit even on a graph. Like tell me more, you know? And so that's been a really I love that experience, like listening to people and watching them be so excited about, if you're in America, it's only about hemp because it's not federally legal, so we can't
Right.
call it cannabis yet, so we call it hemp. Fuck off. So it's funny like seeing people super excited, and then I just like show them a picture of my phone, and I'm like, yo, this is what I do, and they're like, what is that? And you're just like, okay, and then you just kind of like I just like talk just like normally about what I do, and you just see them get like more enamored with what's happening. And so that's like just I don't know, that's a lot of fun. I love to, as you might be able to tell, and some people who are watching this, pod, is that I'm like really excited about cannabis. I
Absolutely.
fucking love it. And so to like share that with other people and go through that experience, I mean, that's just fucking the best. So
So
that's like a really fun part.
what companies out there do you feel like are doing it right though? Because I like how I don't want to say judgmental, but I love
Well,
how critical you are about like who's doing it right or who's doing it wrong. So let me know somebody who you feel like is doing it right.
I mean, God, how how much do I want to set the world on fire right now,
Set it on
basically?
fire, man. Come on now. We're already getting your smoke from Canada down in New York. So go ahead,
It's
man.
like,
Set
yeah,
it on fire.
wow. I was wondering, so that was funny. That only took you like, an hour to bring up. I appreciate that. Trying to gas y'all out of there. Um, I mean, I would like to think that like my company's doing it right. And I think like, or the company that I work for right now is doing it right, I should say. Um, because like we're actually reacting to the environment conditions, like the economic challenges that we're facing right now. Like, you know, um, just this morning, the Bank of Canada hiked their interest rate again, and so it's gonna be a little bit tougher moving forward. I don't know if we're going to lay off anybody. I want to say that
Oh
clearly,
my
but
God.
maybe we will because economic conditions get tougher. Like that's just kind of the general trend. It makes me worry. I'm a real worry ward in that way. But like, there's not a lot of companies that are actually putting people in the position that they need to be to make choices that are going to actually steer companies out of trouble entirely. And that's just like the stark reality of it all, I feel like. It doesn't matter if you come from like a large scale background of like tomatoes, for example, or cucumbers or strawberries. Um, I've seen all of these people fail um, in all capacities. And so, yeah, the cannabis industry is in like a really interesting place. And if people think that, oh, well, I live in fucking Missouri, so Missouri is going to legalize, and people are probably tripping out right now because I probably didn't say Missouri. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, but
Missouri.
like,
You
see,
added an
I've
A
been
instead of
around,
an I. I was like, what is that?
been around. So like, if it got legal there, it's not necessarily going to get better, everybody. I just want you all to realize this because when they form, quick little how they make the sausages is that when they legalize things, they use the template of where it was legal beforehand. So
Hmm.
if the system in Colorado was flawed to any degree, they used a template of that system to go do it in Oregon and then in Washington and then in Canada. You see? So some of these mistakes are going to be replicated because they literally use these. If you go through the laws or any proposals that they're going to do, there's always going to be a background. You can go read it, like why they've decided to create this law and what's the basis for these laws, and it has all the background information in that. And usually all that background information related to cannabis laws is just cut and pasted bullshit from the other legal regimes, because that's who was legal.
Right.
That's where the framework was. And since it hasn't all completely burned down, it must be okay, right? So that's where that's where the kind of pessimism goes to. And I don't really understand like who's going to be doing it right, because everybody's losing money right now. There's not a single cannabis company that's making money. So I don't think that anybody with a wholehearted, like rah like I was talking about a bunch of other things in our conversation earlier,
Hmm.
you can't really have that same, go get them
Passion.
as you
Yeah.
can, saying someone's doing it right, because we're all not making money right now. It's the stark reality of it. Everyone's fucking losing money, and some less than others. The company that I work for is one of them, way less than others. So I can say I think that we're doing it right because we have been adjusting. We haven't, again, like, I was throwing the birds to Canopy earlier, or Constellation. That company is a piece of shit because they just continue to like lose 700 million a quarter and not change anything. Where we could have lost a lot of money, but we didn't, because we, again, unfortunately had to let some people go, change our operation. Like, we needed to pivot and be smart and try to make money. And
So
so,
let me ask you this question. So do you feel like, because I'm trying to grasp everything that you're saying, do you feel like it's going to be the leadership of these companies that's going to help them survive in another 2 years, 3 years, when corporate is coming in and it's everything is federally legal? Do you think it's just the leadership alone, or do you feel, or what is it that you think they can keep the cannabis industry alive, or if it's even possible for us really to stay alive without corporate taking over?
well, where there's money, corporations are going to take over. Again, you live in the United States, not me.
Oh, I know it's
This is
all
going to be the
capitalism.
stark reality. Yeah.
But that's what I'm afraid of.
And
I'm
so
trying to
that's
figure out what.
everything.
So, like for instance, Pure Sun Farms, and it's funny because I actually contacted them for the interview, and so I have to email them. So it's really funny that you even work for them, and I didn't even know that. Um, Pure Sun Farms, do you think that they can survive? Because they're big, and would you technically call them corporate?
Oh, we are corporate for sure.
Okay,
We're village farms. We're one of the largest produce companies in the world. We grow tomatoes for some of the largest
okay,
grocery brands here in Canada, in the United States. We have, and I say this with all of my heart, we have one of the smartest leadership and management teams in the business.
okay,
We really honestly do. Like, we do. But with, I think I can say this about every single corporation I've ever worked for, there's always like, it always takes time to make decisions and do things.
right,
And
right,
so that's just the stark reality of corporations. There's management, there's middle management, there's the upper layer of management, then there's the executive layer of management, and that's just what business is.
yeah,
And so for me, who's, been in the industry for almost 20 years now, trying to make money on it, I never had all those layers of management. I might have had like a couple of people I had to pay to like, get myself through it, but it wasn't like a this giant infrastructure. I never had to pay for the machine. My machine was my car, you know. My machine wasn't like all the watering tanks and all the cultivation related material, and then you have to buy all the processing related material, with the trimmers and the buckers and the space for drying, and then so there's the hanging material for the drying. And like,
mm.
I don't know if you've ever hung 13,000 plants
Oh
before,
no,
but
no, no, no,
it's
no, not at all.
not really like a couple of hangers and some
Mm.
fish net, you know what I mean? Like,
And that brings me
there's
into the question about supply chain issues. Like, what type of supply chain issues have you dealt with such a huge operation?
just like any other company trying to deal with things, especially now. Like, sometimes nutrients won't come, sometimes bugs don't come for like our beneficial bugs, sometimes cocoa's late. Like, that's just but that's the nature of any other business, though. Like,
Yeah.
deliveries are late. I know the pandemic that we had obviously complicated the shipping thing a little bit too, but that's just like a normal thing of business that's been a part of it for fucking decades, I think. So I don't think that thing is like really unique. Um, I think it's just trying to like convince people of what are the right things to purchase at the right time, I think is a little bit more. And again, that's just like some of these people who are making decisions have never been involved in the cannabis industry, so they don't understand how to plan for it, when to make the orders, when to like do stuff. They don't understand how a plant works. Whenever I get any sort of information from people who want to help me plan the cannabis plant, I always tell them like, come visit me, come into the nursery, come look at the plant, come like let's take a look at the plans that I make, see how long I have for my intervals to do things. Look what happens when some of the plants do things in different seasons. I'm in a greenhouse. I'm not in a controlled indoor. I'm basically outdoor. So I have different seasons. I have different light levels. I have different everything. It's a totally different beast.
That's cool.
So yeah, again, I think if anyone's going to make it, it is going to be companies like Pearson Farms. I know there's not a lot of us. Pearson Farms are village farms. We were built on like 2, 3 decades of innovation from Holland. Like we still have greenhouse affiliation in Holland. We're not just some run of the mill vegetable company. Like they spent a lot of time and then they implemented the technology for the tomatoes. The tomatoes went well, so then they implemented it into cannabis. And they're they're pretty methodical and smart in that sort of way. I have to give them a lot of credit for sure. And
That's awesome.
that's why I've chosen to be with them instead of just running by completely by myself. Uh, it's a huge learning lesson, and they're a really smart team that teach me things like every single day. Or else I wouldn't be there. I get pretty bored, you
Absolutely.
know, with
So
certain things. I have to
as
be stimulated.
agreed. So as a closing note, what do you think could change in the cannabis industry? What are the biggest things that can make a big change in the cannabis industry? What would the cannabis industry need to get rid of? And what does the cannabis industry need to add in order to make it a comfortable industry? Something that will let you sleep at night. Let's put it like that. What can help you sleep at night? What do you think? I mean, and not just banking. What can help the cannabis industry thrive monetarily and emotionally?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to sound like a cranky old man, but like this isn't like the good old days. All right. We're not if you take information about growing your plant, you should keep that information. It's not going to be considered evidence anymore. um, like how many fucking decades of information have we lost due to like the false stigmatization of cannabis? Like really,
Decades for real.
we didn't want to write any notes because it was going to be evidence, like we were going to be busted. So like,
Exactly.
I can't tell you how tall my plant was at 7 days or 14 days or 21 days of my Death Bubba or my Sour Diesel or Jack Herrera, Strawberry Cough, fucking Granddaddy Perp, you name it, can't tell you because I didn't write it down. So like that, in the spirit of that, like people really need to understand that if we work together, we're all going to make more money collectively. Just because you start like lots of people think that like I invite everyone to come to the greenhouse to come and visit me because I want to genuinely get to know them and like understand where they are as a cultivator, how I can help them, how they can obviously help me. It's a mutual relationship slash respect in that sort of way. But like barely anybody wants to take me up on it because they think that they're going to be telling me some sort of like crazy state secret that I've like never heard before. And I'm going to take their market away from them because now all of a sudden I'm going to be growing 40% weed. Like, come on, guys and girls, get your fucking shit together. Like, I'm genuinely doing this out of the spirit of my heart and to make sure that I pass on information so that we can all become better cultivators and better stewards of the plant. Like if we do that, our yields are going to be better. We're going to have like better production. Our employees are going to be happier because we know what we're doing. They're going to be happier because the pruning strategies that we give them, they're going to be able to execute them. And then they're going to know that they're doing a good job because why? Oh, well, you tell them because you see that you have a good plant in front of you. So then now you have that good plant in front of you at the nursery level, you can give it to the fucking flower room. And then you know that in the flower room, if something goes sideways, well, look, I fucking gave you something that was beautiful, disease free, pest free, structure was there. We've got enough shoots, you know, and that's like the real big problem, you know. Ergo, I can't just like go to another farm and be like, hey, yo, can you show me your death bubba?
Right, right.
Because like I don't know if they have the same death bubba. Number one, I have no idea if it's going to be the same one. You know, alluding back to our name conversation earlier. And like number two, you think they're going to tell me anything?
No, they're not. I do
No.
understand that. I do understand that. It's a very secret
So
industry.
yeah, that for sure. Like I don't know why everyone's still trying to be a fucking gangster in the legal industry.
Damn.
Like, can someone fucking like send me the memo on that one? Like in the same point in time, like yes, I understand that the genetic importation game is fucked up here in Canada. Like it's really hard to get old school genetics into it. That's a whole other fucking conversation because that needs to change about the regulations too. But like, yeah, people who like want to still be gangsters in the legal industry, like you're fucking yourself.
Yeah.
And like, is what it is. Like everyone, I respect everyone's decision, If you want to, you can. I can't tell anybody not to do that. That's calling the kettle fucking black as fuck. Nope, I can't. But like it's illegal now, folks, and we need to be like better people about it. There's no need to build up these empires. There's no need to like hide information from everybody. There's no reason for that. We're in such an early stage where we need the research. We need the information for the research in order to further this whole fucking industry. We're in no point in time to start swinging our you know what's
Yeah,
and trying to
I get
act
it.
like we're king shit. It's not
Absolutely.
not the time. So people we need to realize the moment that we're in right now. And it's not about bragging time. Yes, we are to be proud about our achievements, but they should be mutual achievements and done with the industry and together with everybody. And, sure, some people are going to say that sounds like mighty kumbaya.
No, absolutely
And,
not. Well,
if you,
if they do, then
well, yeah, but if some
they're a
people
hater.
think that, then
They're a
yeah, that,
hater.
well, not even a hater. I wouldn't even say that. I would just say that their mind is in the wrong place right now and probably their heart therefore. So maybe they need to like think about it for a few minutes and stuff and maybe they'll get right and figure out what I'm talking about. Maybe they'll watch this again with a different mind and understand what I'm talking about because maybe I need their help, you know. If I call them a hater, then I'm probably just writing them off to be honest with you. So I want to leave that door open for anybody who hears that and like if they want to reach out and have that conversation, I'm super down.
Oh, absolutely.
Like yeah, we need to work together, man. That's the biggest thing that does not happen right now. And it's really from the spirit of the industry that I came from, that's just fucking wrong.
Well, Cory,
So
look, I appreciate you, bro. You have been, in my opinion, you're a legend. That's like when I met you on Clubhouse, I already knew that you were going to be a legend. Um, you have a very vast insight on the cannabis industry and what's wrong with it. And I think everybody needs to hear this because a lot of people don't talk like you in the cannabis industry. Too many people are bragging. Too many people are just not taking it as serious as they should in the critical moment that the cannabis industry is in. They're just not really taking it as seriously and grasping the moment. Like you just said, keeping document of it. Everybody needs to be working because it's almost like if you were back in the days and people were writing scrolls of their history and all those lost chapters of the Bible, all these lost chapters of history are just gone because people were
yeah,
fighting and just like I get it. I get what you're saying. So I have a lot to think about and I have a lot that I would love to work on. Um, that I'm going to keep under wraps, to be honest with you. But I really appreciate your time, Cory. Like this is an awesome interview, man. Everybody's going to hear this one. Everybody has to hear this one. I'm gonna have to repost this one like multiple times. This was
It's
excellent.
hilarious. It's all good, man. We'll make sure we put it on the Resonate Radio community too. So
Absolutely.
people want to, yeah, if people want to reach out to me, I have my own podcast called Resonate Radio. This is where I met this wonderful individual here,
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
and we got a bunch of different things that have gone on there. Um, and you can contact me on my Instagram. The letter I resonate with. Yeah, I post pictures of my. I try to be as I have problems with social media. Just saying. But I'll try and get back to y'all. It might be better if you get me on like my company thing, which is Team Resonate, TEAM Resonate, RESINATE. My wife runs that social media and she's way better at communicating with y'all on InstaFace than I am. I just fuck TikTok and InstaFace are just not my jams, kids. I don't know. But yeah, I love to help out. And if you have questions about things, fuck, I love weed so much. I'll help you all out. I got
Same
you.
here, man.
And
Your passion is real, man. Your passion is real. You love the plant. You love the industry. You respect the industry. So you're definitely needed. I pray that you live long and you teach more people. You need your own database, to be honest with you, because a lot of people, like I said, no, you need it. No, you do. You do,
that's
Cory.
what the pod's for, bro. That's hopefully going to be the
Yeah,
database. Like I'm trying to encapsulate all that stuff in there, to be honest with you, because I know that's going to be like something that's going to be around forever. I'm never going to take that down. I don't really care. It's always going to be there. So, yeah, I'll make sure we reciprocate this post because people need to know about you and what you're doing because
I
you're like
appreciate it.
real good spirit too, and that's like the happiness that I have with meeting you is that you're like an actual like genuine human being that
I
wants to be in
appreciate
the
it, man.
cannabis industry and not one of these like commercial real estate
No, I can't.
fucking
No.
hash Wookie looking motherfuckers that are just fake as fuck.
Yeah.
And I can't stand those people.
Me either. That's why I did this podcast. I want to get the true gems of the cannabis industry, not just the flashy brands. Like there's a lot of people out there that need to be heard, and they're not being heard because they're too busy listening to companies like Ted's, Buds, Cookies, all that. Like I respect big brands just for what they are in marketing, and I love marketing. But overall, like the true heart of the cannabis industry needs to be heard, and you're definitely a part of it, and you're all the way in Canada. That's a whole another
Yeah.
sector.
It is what it
Awesome.
is, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Much love. And yeah, let's do this again. We definitely we got some more to talk about.
Absolutely, man. Well, you take care, man. Be safe, and even on your trip to Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan,
Kazakhstan. Yeah,
Kazakhstan.
buddy. Next
Yeah, yeah.
Tuesday. Next
Be
Tuesday.
safe, bro, because I need to meet you one day in person.
Yeah, it's all don't even worry about it. The American tour is coming soon. We got some things coming through. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there's next year is gonna be a thing. So
Absolutely.
get ready. Yeah.
All right, bro. You take care. Have a good day, man, or night,
Thank you,
evening.
sir. You too.
All right,
Yeah,
take care.
right. Take it easy.
All right, bye.